Sierra Cantabria is one of several wineries owned by the adventurous Eguren family. They've been in the wine business in Riojas since 1870, more than long enough to learn how to make great wines like this one. Next, we have the 2007 Bodegas Beronia Rioja Crianza. More than 150 different small farms provide the grapes for Beronia's wines, all of them located within a 10-mile radius of the winery. Yet somehow, long-time winemaker Matias Calleja blends everything into a seamless expression of top-quality Rioja. Our third wine is the 2003 La Rioja Alta Viña Alberdi Rioja Reserva, from one of the Riojas region's most respected wineries. Rioja Alta still follows local tradition, offering vintages only when they're ready to drink, like this 2003. This also means that they have more than 50,000 barrels and 6 million bottles of wine aging in their cellars at all times. Fourth is the 2001 Marqués de Cáceres Gran Reserva Rioja. Like all Rioja Gran Reserva, this wine spends more than 2 years in oak barrels and 3 years in the bottle before release. Unlike some, it comes from one of the greatest Rioja vintages in recent memory, 2001. Making it truly a Gran Reserva. The fifth wine tonight is the 1999 Cune Gran Reserva Imperial Rioja. Cune's first Imperial came from the 1928 vintage, and believe it or not, is still drinking beautifully. If you can find a bottle. If you can't, who knows? Perhaps this lovely 1999 will last in your cellar for 80 years, if you're patient enough. Our sixth and last wine is the López de Heredia Vina Tondonia Gran Reserva Rioja 1991. At López de Heredia, time moves at a different pace than anywhere else. And they often keep their wines for 15 or 20 years before releasing them to the public. It's an extraordinary approach, but then this is an extraordinary red wine. Each episode, we ask an independent panel of experts to rank a group of 20 wines. Then we taste the top 6. Our charming yet muy caliente studio audience has just finished tasting our 6 wines, and they're eager to tell us what they think.
Before we get started, though, I wanted to share some information about the region we're tasting tonight, which is Rioja. These are lovely wines. They're not massively powerful wines. It's a lot of flavor, but they're sort of somewhere in that medium-bodied to sometimes fairly full-bodied red. The central grape of Rioja is Tempranillo, which is kind of the Spanish red grape. There are some other grapes that go into the mix, but Tempranillo is defined by a kind of, supple tannins, cherry fruit, wonderful ability to age over time. When you combine that with a sort of climate and area of Rioja, you get this influence from the Atlantic and influence from the Mediterranean. So some years you have sort of more Atlantic years, some years you have more Mediterranean years, but what you have in the middle is balance, and you get these wonderfully balanced wines that do age for a really long time.
So what's fun about Spanish wine, and what I think makes them very special, is the aging, which you see on most of their labels. Reserva, Gran Reserva, which is a great reserve that they keep for quite some time and release only on the best vintages. So basically, Reserva, you can find some Reserva depending on the producers that go from 1 year plus in oak barrels, aging in oak barrels, and then a year plus extra aging in the bottle, and then release them. And then the Gran Reserva spend much longer time. That's what also makes them very special. 2 years in oak and 3 years in the bottle or more. And it really depends, again, on what style the producer wants to have. But you can find some Gran Reservas, more than 50-year-old right now, that are absolutely amazing, drinking now beautifully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. Spanish people don't always think of Riojas as being long-aging wines. They're fantastically long-aging wines.
Our audience hasn't stopped drinking all evening. So I guess they like these Riojas. I'm going to find out if they picked their favorite. Audience, how are the wines? Rico! Rico. That means wonderful. Maybe they're a little too happy. But before we reveal the audience choice, let's head up upstairs and sit down with Stanley Tucci, Ray, and our guests as they taste our 6 wines.
Okay, well, it's time to try the first wine. These are different prices and different vintages. We've actually got wines going all the way from 2007 vintage back to 1991. Tonight. So we've got some pretty cool old wines here. The other thing I'll mention just as a little wine note is that Riojas are primarily made from a grape called Tempranillo. Mm-hmm. It's the great red wine, great grape of Spain. There's some other varieties that go into them, Garnacha, Graciano, Mazuelo, but Tempranillo is really the heart of Rioja. I'm going to kind of